The Rum Runners suffered their first loss of the season. NFL owners approved a proposal to add 2 playoff teams if regular season games get canceled. And our own playoff landscape is taking shape. All this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast sponsored by Football, Darts, and Fantasy Sports Alliance. Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans out there. You know what we're going to do? We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to bring Kevin in early this week while he's sitting there playing on his phone. Kev, how are you this week?
I am doing well. I was just out in the Twitterverse retweeting our show, making sure everybody can find us out there.
I love it. Ross says, hello, loyal subjects. Ross, of course, the co-creator with us with the QB54 and the newly being tested King of the Castle League that is starting this week for us. So, Ross, good to see you out there. How are you? Hey, so let's talk about our broadcast sponsor. First, we'd like to thank our broadcast sponsor, Football Darts. Football Darts is a dart game that combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple target dartboard. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, as at league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your home. If you would like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, go to footballdarts.com, and you can also find them online now at Target and Wayfair. Before I get to the next spot, how'd the average bros go last night?
It went well, and unfortunately, we had a back and forth talking about the big Saints game. Josh was very happy about that, and his Saints winning. I do have a pie that I still owe him to take place here in the upcoming weeks when T gets back into town. But overall was a fun time. Average time, I should say.
Average time. I like it. MJ's out there. MJ, how are you? Hey, don't forget to set your King of the Castle lineup. We've got, I think, 5 teams right now that have not set it yet now that the waiver wires have ran. So if you are out there watching this right now and you have not set your King of the Castle lineup, I know a lot of people probably won't until tomorrow anyways, as we have Thursday night football, but make sure that this is the new added league this week that you do not forget to add it on there. Rocky out there with us as well. Rocky, how are you tonight? Hey, so let's talk about our partners over at Empty Wagon. So Brad, Josh, and Eric bounced back this week with their heroes and villains and really impressed this week. It's definitely my favorite part of the show. I love being a part of the graphics that I do for them on Saturday/Sunday to release out onto social media. At least I like it whenever I get it right. For the last 2 weeks in a row, I've messed up the art. At least this week we caught it before it went out to everybody. Or did we catch it before it went out to everybody? Did I mess up? Was this week the Chase Edmonds CEH mess up?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, last week I ended up messing up. I think it was the Nelson Aguilar one with Fluham because I forgot Nelson Aguilar played for the Raiders now. And then when I went back and looked at the heroes and villains, I knew I was changing out a Philadelphia Eagle, forgot Fluham was out there, and I swapped out the wrong art for him. So third time's a charm. Hopefully we get it right this week. Hey, if you have not heard their heroes and villains segment yet, make sure you go out and watch or listen to their show. You can find it real easy at fsa-fr.com. You can find them on all of their social media at Empty Wagon FF. They will be on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter this weekend starting at 12:01 a.m. Saturday morning with their Week 10 preview. And as Damian likes to say to and for us every week, if you have not been paying attention to Empty Wagon, you are doing fantasy football wrong. So then you guys last night on your show, you did your NFL news, winners and losers for the week, odd man out, top dogs, and you did spend a lot of time talking about the Saints defeating Tampa Tom, which I know Josh was super happy about. And then you guys touched on the NFL playoffs a little bit. Anything you want to bring up here on the Fanatically Real broadcast tonight with the playoffs?
No, just a reminder that if you are following your NFL teams closely this year, the playoffs have been expanded by one team for the wild
Possibly.
card.
So you're talking about for 7 teams already?
Yeah, so
For
it
7,
already
okay.
has. Yeah, so this is the first year where you will see 3 wild cards and only the top seed getting the bye for now. If games continue to move as COVID starts to kick back up again, I know we'll talk about it in a little bit here, but you could see that format change a little bit. Outside of that, as far as a fantasy perspective, keep that in mind when you're talking about snap counts and players monitoring injuries as they push forward to playoffs and as they come back, not wanting to miss too much time or not have a big name start.
So if you're not already watching or following us, all of us, this includes the Empty Wagon, the Average Bros, and the Fanatically Real Broadcast. You can find us on 3 different platforms now. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Please go out, like, subscribe, and follow us on all of them. You see them coming across the bottom of the screen right now. You can find us out on about a bazillion podcasts now, too, thanks to Kevin. So, Kevin, why don't you give them the laundry list of where they can find us now?
We are in podcast form on Anchor at Anchor FM, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Play, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher, and then anywhere else that you can you go for your podcast listening pleasures. We're probably there too. So check out us on all of those.
So a good question from Chris here. It says, when you get into the playoffs for the redraft, can you explain a little bit how they work? All right. So for the redraft, it will be 4 teams that will go to the playoffs. It'll be the top 4 teams from each one of the regions. This will be the regional playoffs. They will start in week 12. So we have 2 more weeks of regular season. That's going to be weeks 10 and 11. And then our playoffs for the regional tournaments will start weeks 12, and we will play those weeks 12 and 13. So 4 teams, 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. We're actually going to talk about what that playoff picture looks like a little bit later on in the show right now for each one of the regions. The 2 winners from that round of 4 will play down for the regional championship. And then the winner from each one of the regions will move on to the world championship. So that's a total of 6 teams this year. So what's going to happen is we're not just taking the top 2 teams by total points for the year or by record to have those first round buys. It is going to be the top 2 teams by power rankings. So the power rankings that you all know and enjoy and love this year, we're going to continue those through the regional championship. And then whoever the top 2 teams are of the 6 regional champions that go into the world championship bracket will get the number 1 and number 2 seed, which will be buys in that round. And it'll be a normal 6-team bracket from there. Hopefully, Chris, that will answer your question.
So he has a second question based on people with the same records as you go into the playoffs. The way it works is the same type of tiebreakers as the NFL has in place. The first one being head-to-head matchups. So if in 2 weeks, say there is 2 teams tied, for example, myself and Brian, but Brian has beaten me in the season, considering we played the same schedule, he would then hold the tiebreaker and he would win the playoff spot over myself.
So, Chris, to your question about the ranking right now, don't worry about the ranking as it applies to the regional championship right now. So just having the power rankings right there for the whole year, give us something to talk about, right? It's a novelty idea. It won't really come into play until we get into the world championship bracket. So like Kevin just explained, it's going to be the top 4 teams. If there is a tie, the first tiebreaker will be head-to-head. Since we played everybody just once this year, it should be pretty easy to be able to flesh that out. If it is not satisfied, then it will be total points for the year that will do it. So what you're looking at in the standings right now, and this is because of the way MFL has it set up, it is win-loss record first, and then total points is how they rank them. Now, I do have the ability to go in there every single week and rearrange those if I want, but just know that when it's time to go to the playoffs, it will be a tiebreaker for those if there are any ties in record. And then I see Addison is out there tonight. I want to make sure I put him up on the screen and say, hey, brother, how are you? Happy veteran. Not really happy Veterans Day for us, but we'll say it just the same. I have to try to explain it to my dad every year. Veterans are for those who served who are still alive. Memorial Day are for those who served and passed away. And we have the Armed Forces Day, but I don't even know what day of the year that is. That's what we have for those of us that are currently still serving. Let's see, what does Damien say? Damien says, if any games get canceled going forward, playoffs will be extended to 8 teams for each conference with no teams getting a bye week. Yep, absolutely. That's exactly what Kevin just said as well. Rocky says the Dragon division is getting tighter. It absolutely is. We're going to talk about that when we get a little bit further. Is Chelsea on as well? I see MJ says, hey to Chelsea out there. With Chelsea, big news this week as we get into the Gulf Coast region. Happy to talk about that when we get there. But before we get there, let's talk about some of this. What you got, Kev?
No.
All right, let's talk about
right
NFL news. I know some of this was already mentioned on the Average Bros last night, which is where everybody should be going to be getting their up-to-date NFL news. But some of this I picked up earlier in the day. I decided I wanted to share. We just get CMC back after being on injury since week 2. Me being one of those guys, just getting him back. And then he might be, and as of right now, it looks like he will be out Sunday's matchup because of the right shoulder injury in that game against the Buccaneers. So right now I have him out of my lineup. So continue making sure you're watching the injury report for him and find out what that looks like. But as of right now, it looks like he's going to be out. Chicago running back Montgomery suffered a concussion during Sunday's Week 9 loss to the Titans. He will have to clear the NFL's 5-step protocol, so his status for Monday night's game against the Vikings is up in the air. If he is ruled out for Monday Night Football, it'll probably be Cordell Patterson in the backfield for the Chicago Bears, and that's, in my eyes, pretty sad to say that you have to have a converted wide receiver be your running back if that's all you have on that team right now. But there's a lot of things that are sad with the Chicago Bears. So Browns wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. underwent his ACL surgery on Tuesday, successful surgery, and is expected to be ready for the 2021 season. Not field news, off-field news for Denver running back Melvin Gordon, whose court date was set for October 13th because of his DUI and speeding charges, has been moved to 14 December at the request of his attorney. Based on the recent NFL precedent for players who have had similar charges, Gordon is likely to face a 3-game suspension, but the league isn't expected to levy his punishment until after the legal process is resolved. With that in mind, it's possible that any potential suspension that Gordon might face relating to his arrest may not be served until 2021 for anybody who might have Gordon out there right now. Good news, I guess, for those of you that are thinking about drafting him or have him in your dynasty leagues, know that he could be gone next year at the beginning of the 2021 season. Pittsburgh's head coach Mike Tomlin said Tuesday that quarterback Mason Rudolph will receive the bulk of the reps at quarterback in practice this week, with starter Ben Roethlisberger being uncertain to be activated from the COVID list prior to this weekend's game against the Bengals. We already know that he might possibly have knees injury as well, knees plural, after the hit that he took last week. So if you have Ben Roethlisberger, make sure you also watching the injury report to see if he's going to play on Sunday. And then the Cleveland Browns have officially activated quarterback Baker Mayfield from the COVID list in preparation or in advance of Wednesday's practice. He was placed on the list on Saturday after he came in close contact with a Browns staff member who tested positive. What you say about the NFL news, Kev?
I say I'm hurting just the same for Christian McCaffrey. I know that I believe he was ruled out for this week officially and has now been listed, changed from day to day to week. So this week he is out. Mike Davis gets the workload back again for himself. That's definitely a heartbreaker for myself. Helped me get the win this past week, but I need 2 more. So not gonna do much for me there.
I'm in the same boat. I have both of them on my team, though, Mike Davis and CMC, and I started both of them this past week, which actually worked out well for me because even in Mike Davis's limited role, it was enough to be better than any of my running backs that I had on my bench. But now it's looking like that I'm back to Mike Davis as my single back moving forward and hoping that I get some help to get myself into the playoffs right now because it's looking a little bleak for me over there in the South Atlantic Dragons region. But hey, let's get into these games of the week. That way we can hurry up and get to that playoff portion and talk about that. So let's talk about the New England region where the Chris Betts tops the region scoring for the week with a defeat of the Werebears. Final score there was 189 to 106. And my co-host here for the night gets a little bit of a spot here in the next part as we talk about the Appalachian region. The Evil Empire and the Nihilists had a great matchup in the Appalachian region. Final score there was separated by just 0.66 points. Evil Empire grabbed the win with a final score of 132.38 to 131.72. Kevin, talk to me about your win.
This one was down to the wire for us. A tough game all week long, all weekend long, rather. Heading into Sunday's night's game, the Saints versus the Tampa Bay. I myself had Tom Brady and Antonio Brown. Tom Brady putting up negative points, causing such a close matchup, and then the Nihilist having Drew Brees and Michael Thomas. Luckily, something that we had mentioned yesterday, I don't know if this was more of a flex on the Saints move or if it was just the game plan to really not have a specific target, but all 12 active receivers on the team had a catch from Drew Brees, which limited Michael Thomas's role fantasy-wise, which got me the win overall. So very happy about that. Back in the winning things here, and it was a must-win for the Evil Empire as we look at the playoff picture in a little bit.
Kind of an interesting strategy to be able to do that. I'm wondering what kind of flex were they thinking? Were they thinking, hey, spread the ball around? Some of these guys they haven't seen. Maybe they don't know how to play them. Is this a reaction to, hey, Tampa, you've got like every known bell and whistle on the roster now, especially with picking up AB, and hey, we can still beat you 38-3 with what we've got on ours. I don't know what the flex was, but it worked out for them, and they absolutely dominated that game. Pretty happy to see it as well. I mean, I know your brother was happy to see it.
Yeah, he was jumping for joy for sure.
All right, let's get back over to these games of the week. So the Killers of the Great Lakes region continue their climb to the top of the region as this week they defeated our previous number one team in the power rankings, Music City Miracles. Music City Miracles were number one in the power rankings in weeks 6 and 7. Final score there was 165 to 136. And during last week's broadcast, we said to pay attention to the game between the Naughty Dogs and the Land Sharks in the South Atlantic region. These two teams were 1-2 in the region, and they still are. However, the Naughty Dogs got the win, and they took over as the lead team in the region by virtue of head-to-head tiebreaker. Both teams are now 7-2. Final score there was 139 to 126. And that, like we mentioned at the top of the show, the Rum Runners, who have been our top team in the power rankings, or was our top team in the power rankings in week 8, and was our only undefeated team left in all of the alliance, finally suffered their first loss at the hands of Psychedelic Seahorse. In the Gulf Coast region, both teams left significant points on the bench, but it was a Seahorse who prevailed. Final score there, 141 to 92. And a little bit of tidbit of information MJ hit me with earlier today was the top two teams in the Gulf Coast region right now, the Rum Runners and the Hookers, both teams 8-1. Their only losses of the season both have been to the Psychedelic Seahorse, so good on her. We have a second game of the week in the Gulf Coast region. You're not going to see it graphically up here, but as close as the game was between the Evil Empire and the Nihilists in the Appalachian region, it was not our margin of victory game of the week. That belongs to this game, the Nature Coast Colonials, and Brady sits down to number 1. The margin of victory there was just 0.22 points as the Colonials came up came out on top. Final score was 126.54 to 126.32. And then in the Western region, the Gadget guys find themselves on top of the power rankings again for their fourth week this season, as they defeated the White Ponies with a final score of 181 to 126. And I didn't want to leave the redraft games of the week without giving an honorable mention to our top scoring team of the week, which belongs to the Miami Inferno out of the Gulf Coast region. They were the only team this week to score over 200 points, as they scored 209.98 points. Kev, what do you think's going on in the redraft regions right now?
Yeah, a lot of, I believe you had mentioned there's only a few teams mathematically out. A lot of teams heating up. We're looking at, teams starting to find their groove as far as realizing, hey, what players are worth their start every week as we go through things. A lot of, teams shoring up here. So getting very, very interesting as we head into the last 2 weeks.
So MJ says Seahorse killing it as a rookie. So I do want to mention that you and I were talking about it before we went live. So don't forget, we do give out end of the season awards. We give out 3. We give out a General Manager of the Year award, a Rookie General Manager of the Year, and the Top Scoring Team of the Year. So the General Manager of the Year is voted on by all of the other general managers who are not rookies, and the Rookie General Manager of the Year is voted on by the Rookie General Managers. And then the top scoring team is actually given a cash payout at the end of the year. Now, when we say top scoring team, that top scoring does not stop after the regular season ends. So even if you don't make it into a bowl game, a regional playoff, a world championship playoff, if you're eliminated from all of that, continue putting a lineup in. Even though you won't have an opponent, those points that you score will get tallied onto your total points for the year. And then whoever is the top scoring team of the year will get, I believe it's a $75 payout is what we've got for it this year. So make sure that you continue to do that. And I will say, with that mention that MJ just gave us with a possible rookie of the year, have to look across the landscape of it. But at the very least, the ability to knock off or only give the 2 losses to those 2 teams so far, that's got to give her a good honorable mention right now. MJ says, keep setting that lineup. You're not wrong. Keep setting that lineup. All right, let's get back over here to these games of the week, and let's get into our Dynasty games of the week. In the Alpha Dynasty League, the Dayton Triangles annihilated his competition. He ended up having a 45 and 43-point efforts from Kyler Murray and Dalvin Cook. He ends up knocking off the Red Dogs with a final score of 219 to 112. And in a great matchup between 2 6-2 teams in the Bravo Dynasty League, the Brooklyn Lions increased their win total to 7 after defeating the Omaha Mustangs with a final score of 172 to 155. In the Charlie League, the Scottish Claymores continue to dominate. This week, they were the only team to score over 200 points with their 207 to 126 win over the Arizona Hotshots. Claymores are now 8-1 in the Charlie Dynasty League. And then in Delta, the win by the Steel Valley Smash over the Orlando Apollos has given hope to everyone in the East Division, as all 4 teams are within 2 games of each other. And this is because of the loss by the Apollos. The Smash are now 7-2 with a final score of 168 to 149. Orlando remains in first place, though, however, in their division, but they are now 5-4. And I wanted to make sure I give an honorable mention out here as well to our Dynasty teams for the week. I know Damien's out there right now. Damien, the Erie Explosion in the Bravo Dynasty League, finally got their first win of the year, and he is now 1-8 in the Bravo Dynasty. Damien, if you're out there, please leave us a comment about that. All right, let's get into these final 2, and we're going to be talking about our QB54 Arm and Leg League games. It was a 1-point margin of victory game, took place in the AFC as Eric Talbot got the win over Rusty James with a final score of 26-25. And then in the NFC, Sean Purcell scored the most points in all of the arm and leg leagues this week with a final score of, or final point total of 36 points. He defeated Cody Tyler, who managed 27 points on his own. Cody had played 18 of the other 22 teams in the league this week. He would have got a win. Unfortunately, he ends up with the loss. Tell me what you think about the Dynasty and the QB54 arm and leg leagues.
It's surprising to see that Damien only has one win, as it is, as himself being a strong player both across the prospective Dynasty leagues and in redraft. I have the pleasure of playing and then hopefully beating him in Delta this week. So hopefully it does not correlate, his winning streak across the two, but definitely interesting to see. This week, unfortunately, taking a loss in Delta to MJ, so I do have to get a win this week to keep my playoff hopes alive to win the division. But things are very interesting, to say the least, as far as the way rebuild processes have already started. Damien knows all too well about that himself.
He says the first win is always the hardest, can only go up from here. And then Ross says that he's got to run for the night and he'll catch us on the fast playback on YouTube. So Ross tells me a couple of weeks ago when he watches the show, he watches on 1.5 speed to make sure he can get through the show even faster. I'd be very curious to see what that looks like and sounds like. All right. Hey, so let's get into these power rankings for the week, brought to you by Finger Lakes Mercantile. Thank you to Brandon Gums for being our presenter of these this week. So I noticed something when I was talking to Brandon just before we went live tonight, and nobody has mentioned it. We're sitting on Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening now. These power rankings go up on Tuesday morning. I try to get them out prior to noon. Anything look funky there to you, Kev?
I have not noticed anything yet, unless I'm missing something big here.
Check out number 6, the Hookers. Look across her stat line there.
Quality wins 39, all play record 0.6, power 16. What is that there? Or am I reading the long line?
What are you seeing? Are you seeing 25 right there for her power ranking?
Yeah, where it says power, yes.
Okay, so this is
25.155.
This is sorted from first to worst whenever I publish this. So my question is if I sorted this from first to worst, how did that get in there like that? So my theory is that I fat fingered something while I was at the office, while I was still working on other Excel programs, and this got put in there. However, it is sorted correctly, and she does not have 39 quality wins. She has 28 quality wins right now. I went back and did the math before we went live tonight to make sure that 28 quality wins with her 0.645 all play record puts her at 18.06 in the power rankings, which puts her in the right spot for what you see there. How that happened, though, I'm still not sure. How she ended up getting sorted, but is still in the right spot with a higher number than what she should have. So I need a friendly reminder when I go back into the office on Friday to make sure that I correct that, because I do those at the office. I don't email them to myself, so I don't have them here at the house to be able to fix right now. But some notable things here to mention. The Gadget guys are back at the top of the power rankings. The Maniacs, who was our general manager of the year last year, sitting at number 2. Killers jump up 6 spots to number 3. We've got that great game between the Ship Huggers and the Nihilist this week, which I'm going to mention here in a little bit. Rum Runners, who was our only undefeated team, after his loss to the Psychedelic Seahorse this week, drops down 4 spots. The Hookers, even with the bad math that's there, she is in the right spot. She fell from 5th to 6th. Music City Miracles, who had sat at the top of the power rankings for a couple of weeks, drops 3 spots to number 7. Naughty Dogs got a great win over the Land Sharks this week, jumping him up 5 spots to number 8. And then let's see who else is out there that we need to call attention to. Both the Average Joes and Garbage Points jumped up 10 spots into their respective positions. Inferno jumped up 12 spots to the 14th spot. Big drop of the week was the Unicorn Legends after her loss this week as she drops from 10 to 20. Any mentions on there? Let's see. One thing we definitely want to mention because you're here is the Mad Scientists find themselves back up in the top 25 at the number 24 spot. So congratulations to Damien on that one. Oh, look at that. Gadget guy's out there. Eric O'Neill right now says, oh, would you look at that? Yes, you're back at the number 1 spot. How does that feel, Eric? Let us know. Kevin's been there you were there after week 1, right?
I was there like weeks 2 and 3 or something like that. And I wasn't there right away, but before things took too much of a shape and because I was 3-0 and then I lost 1-1. I went back and forth. But Damien is correct. I am not in the top 25. I will be after this week, though, but don't worry. I am sitting at 26, I believe, something like that.
Honesty is in the numbers. Let's check to see how good your facts are. Let's see. Naughty Dogs, number 1 in week 1. Evil Empire, number 1 in week 2. Week 3, you fell to 6. Week 4, up to 5. Let's see. Where are you? Wow. What happened to you? Dropped to 19th in week 5.
Yep.
And was that the last time you saw the top 25? Yeah,
I think I was. Yeah, I might be just hanging around.
There you're at 27, just on the outside looking in. Here you're 27 again. That was in week 7. Here you dropped all the way to 43 in week 8. Wow. But you did make a good bounce back this week because you are sitting at 27 again. That seems to be your favorite number right now. I think that's 3 weeks over the scheme of it that you're sitting at 27. So MJ says congratulations to Eric. So yes, congratulations to you, bud. I'm hoping that this number 1 power rankings for you translates over to some good success for you in the playoffs in both the region and in the big league, Eric. I hope so. All right, so hey, we said we were going to talk about the playoff picture from each one of the regions, right? So you know what we can do? Let me do this real quick. Let's go back over here and share this so everybody can kind of see what we're talking about. I don't know if anybody can see that a little bit better with both Kevin and I's faces in there or not. So let's talk about the New England region. So there are 10 teams that are still very much alive in the New England region right now. Anyone who gets within 2 games of the teams that are at 5-4 right now, with 2 weeks left in the regular season, are in the hunt. The Maniacs and the Chris Betts both earned wins this week. However, the Maniacs have a 2-game lead on them with 2 weeks left, and the Maniacs won the head-to-head matchup in week 6, which means the Maniacs have won their region for the 2nd year in a row. Congratulations to last year's General Manager of the Year, Matt Kroll, and congratulations for his 2nd straight regional championship. So I hope that you can see that right there. You see the little ribbon that's right there next to his name? That is to represent that he was the regional champion last year, and he is going to get to hold on to that ribbon again for a 2nd year as he wins again this year. So let's scroll down here to the Appalachian region. This is your region here, Kev, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the Appalachian region. So this is without us trying to do any hard math, right? So this isn't me looking at head-to-head matchups or anything like that. So if you count these top 4 teams right here, we've got down to the green arrow at 5-4. That means anybody who has a record of at 3-6 or better still has a chance to make the playoffs in this region. So let's scroll down here and see who that applies to. Oh, that's every single team still left in your region without looking at the hard math. So we're going to have to wait until after week 10 for that playoff picture to get a little bit more clear, but that has got to be one of the toughest regions we've got right now. So what kind of help do you need right now to be able to get yourself in the playoffs?
So if we take a look at the top, both the Nihilist and the Ship Huggers have locked their spots at 7-2 as of right now. The worst they could finish is 7-4. So those two are locked. That leaves 2 spots left. So I need one of those two 5-4 teams to lose out. I need a big win from Damien this week, who does play Sin City this week, and then followed by the Nihilist next week. So I need Damien to win, fingers crossed, and then I have to win out. If I do that, I will lock up. I should lock up a spot, hopefully, because I do have the tiebreaker over Damien. So need a little bit of help all the way around here.
So you did mention the top 2 teams here in this region, the Nihilists and the Ship Huggers. We're going to wait until after we get done with this playoff, but we might as well push it right now and push this info out. So these 2 teams play each other this week in week 10. Both of them 7-2 right now. The reason the Nihilists are shown in first place right now is because of what we mentioned earlier when we talked to Chris, was by points at this point. So he does have 10 more points than the Ship Huggers, but they do play against each other this week. So whoever wins this game will win the region as well. I'm correct in that, right? So
yeah,
Nihilists win, they will go to 8-2. Ship Huggers will go to 7-3. Even if the Nihilists lose next week and the Ship Huggers win, Nihilists will have that tiebreaker if we went that way with it. So whoever wins this game this week between the Nihilists and Ship Huggers will be the regional champion in the Appalachian Black Bears region. So in the Great Lakes region, we're going to scroll down here to the bottom instead and look at these 4 teams that are down here at the bottom. The Golden Boys, which is your brother, Mellon Hawks, Ohio Racers, and the Cavalry. These 4 teams are off the radar now. They do not have a chance to make the playoffs, but the other 8 teams are still in close battles as we look at the Killers, the Ohio River Monsters at 7-2, Garbage Points, Music City Miracles, and Turd Ferguson at 6-3. The Creek Dogs, Mongoose at 5-4, and TDs and Beer there at the bottom at 4-5. Those 8 teams still have a chance to make the playoffs. In the South Atlantic Dragons region, which is my region, 3 teams have been eliminated. We'll go down here to the bottom, and that's Beast Mode, Georgia She-Devils, and Lost. They are all out, but the rest of the 9 teams that are in this region, E-Thugs, Lumiere, Greenbacks, Kalunga Clan, myself, Unicorn Legends, Southern Sirens, Naughty Dogs, and Land Sharks all still have a chance. Naughty Dogs and Land Sharks just played against each other this week. If I was to rearrange these standings based on head-to-head matchups, Naughty Dogs would be in first place right now. But as it is, MFL does the quick sort by win-loss record and then total points. And the Sharks do have 37 more points than the Naughty Dogs for the year. In the Gulf Coast region, 3 teams have also been eliminated down there as well, and they are the Hurricanes Football Club, Rough Riders, and Warriors. Warriors still have not got a win yet this year, sitting at 0-9. Everybody else here, from Brady sits down to number 1 all the way up to the top of the Hookers and the Rum Runners, both of them at 8-1. All of these teams are still in the playoff picture, but I have a funny feeling that will go away really, really quick. Is that correct? I'm starting to think maybe I did the math wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, that is absolutely correct. So from Brady sits down to number 1 all the way up, still has a chance to at least slide into the number 4 spot. And then in the West, there's been a total of 4 teams been eliminated. The Underdogs, Front Range Tiburones, Lady Recast, and the Recast have all been eliminated, while the Gadget Guys, Lunatics, West Coast Avengers, Calloused Cowboys, the Koalas, Factory of Sadness, Wildcats, and White Ponies all still have a chance at making playoff spots there. It's going to be very interesting weekend, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see how things roll out. Watching that top spot as the Gadget Guys not only are the number 1 overall in power rankings, they also have the highest total points for, with 1532. So as we talk about being an additional payout or award that we give out, something to keep an eye on, as Damien mentions, all of the points that the mad scientists have scored doesn't really matter. as Ricky Bobby stated, if you ain't first, you're last there,
Yes.
bud. So keep trying.
Hey, so I wanted to give a quick shout out. We've been kind of hinting about it in the show a little bit tonight, the King of the Castle League, which we are using as a test bed for the rest of the season as a possible expansion into 2021. Wanted to give everybody a look at what that website looks like right now. Here is the King of the Castle branded website. As you can see, this is going to be a relegation league, weekly relegation league, where everybody starts down here at this bottom level. As you can see, we are still working on our graphics for the year as we're testing all of this out. These 16 teams will play in 8 games against each other. That was randomly scheduled. The winners of those 8 games will move up to the Knight and Dame level. Before they move up to the Knight and Dame level, they will be pillaging up to 2 players from the teams that they beat, and then they will also be dropping the number of players they need to make sure that their roster stays at 10, while the 8 teams that lose that stay at the Esquire and Lady level will be using the waiver wire to rebuild their team and hope to continue moving up this ladder all the way up to the King Queen level. Once they reach there, that is where they will start earning money next year. No money this year, but once they reach that level, they will start earning money at that spot. Just to give everybody a heads up who is helping test this league, there are a couple people who still have not set their lineups. So as you're getting ready to set your lineups for Thursday Night Football, make sure you set that in here as well. And MJ says, gorgeous website. Appreciate that, MJ. Yeah, this did turn out really well. For those of you that are seeing it right now with the castle on either side of the main part of the page here, because I don't know who looks at this from their laptops or desktops or their tablets, but I know on the phone you don't normally get to see those edges out there. This is the same castle that you see at the beginning of the show here on the Fanatically Real broadcast. When we open the show with our opening, our song there by our intro by the recast, that is the same castle that's on there. So just so you all know, to give a little bit of a schedule of what this looks like when the games play. So games will play, of course, like normal week, Thursday through Monday. The pillaging of the players and the announcement of the players that are going to be dropped by the winners need to be made on the King of the Castle message board by 6 p.m. East Coast time on Tuesday. If you're wanting to know what that message board or where the location of it is right here at the top of the standings. There's nothing there right now, but I am going to post a new topic each week, so you'll know where you need to go into to name your pillaged and dropped players there. You can do it inside the same thread, and then I will go in there by hand and do that for you. And then the waiver wire for those that are down at the Esquire and Lady level will run at 6 p.m. East Coast every Wednesday. That happened even today as well, as we drafted over the weekend for this league and had a little bit of issues with the draft for those teams that were set on auto draft. And we wanted to make sure that they were at least semi-competitive going into this first week. So we allowed players to do some adding and dropping before this first week happened. I don't know that we will do that in 2021 unless it's a injury that might keep a player out. It might be one of the ways we would do it. But yeah, that's not going to be a normal thing for 2021. What do you think about this King of the Castle League, Kev? You excited about it?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. This is the first time I've ever heard of anything like this league. I've never seen it anywhere else. As far as the closest thing to your weekly fantasy in a season-long setting as you can get, having to stack up wins to enable, if I can speak, in order to get into the money, not like you would in a regular redraft or a dynasty league where you're out once you are have a couple of losses on your record. Every week is like a new week. Once you go down to that first rung, you can always win back in. And as you mentioned earlier, everybody do go out and make sure you set your lineups. MJ, that is for you as you play me. I want to see what I'm up against this week as I go out and take a look at mine. So I can't wait for this week and get things started in the King of the Castle.
So Chris says, this is a really cool idea. How do I play? Chris, of course, being funny. Chris was one of the first guys that raised his hand and said he wanted to test this thing out. But after we built it, I wanted to make sure everybody that was aware of when the draft was going to be and make sure they could make it. So I went back out and again asked, hey, here's when we're going to do the draft. Raise your hand now if you're interested. And I knew Chris really was, but I wanted to give a fair shake to everybody that was in the room. And no matter how many times I added Chris in the group me chat room, I think he had me on silent that day and we missed out. So Chris, going to love to have you in the league in 2021. Would love to have your input as we do this in 2020. So please stay in the group and let us know what you think and give us some help with it. But sorry, bud. I'll tell you what, you can help me run my team. How about that? We'll probably stay down at the bottom every single week at the Esquire and Lady level, but whatever. We'll have fun doing it. All right, let's talk about this week's NFL games, our primetime games. Well, first off, tell me how we did last week. Am I still above 500 in our head-to-heads right now?
Let me pull it up here. I believe you are right at it. So you are at 15-13, as you had taken Green Bay, who won, and then on the losing side of both the other games with Tampa Bay and the Jets, I sneak up to even at 500, 14-14. The only game different there is I took the home team, the Patriots, which snuck out a late win via field goal there.
I started to think that I was going to get one up on you. When I went to sleep, I thought, I'm good. I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to get me another win against Kevin. And then I woke up the next morning. First thing I did was grab the phone and check it. And then the wife actually stayed up and watched the game with me as well. And she fell asleep. And then when I told her later on in the day that New England had come back and won that game, the shock and awe on her face, she couldn't believe it either. So, Chris says he'll be king of the castle in Delta for sure. I have no idea what it looks like over in Delta right now, so it's entirely possible. Hey, MJ brought up a very good point. I know she's trying to keep it a secret, but I wanted to bring it up to go back to something with the king of the castle.
I was going to bring this up.
When you are pillaging players, you can only pillage starting players. So our entire roster is 10 players. Our starting lineups are 8. So when you're pillaging, you can only pillage the 8 starting players. So part of a strategy that goes along with that, something we've kind of played around with, toyed around with the idea is, if you're going into a week that it looks like you're probably going to lose anyways, possibly bench one of your stars or your studs. That way they can't be taken. And as you drop back down to the Esquire Lady level, you have that player on your team to be able to use as you try to build your way back up. So I'm glad that she brought that up. So I would let everybody know, for those of you that are in the King of the Castle that haven't read the rules all the way through and are hearing it now for the first time, either on the broadcast or the podcast, yes, you can only pillage starting players for the teams that you beat. I meant King of the Castle 4. Are you saying we're going to have 4 leagues going for King of the Castle as well? I'm hesitant to know. I'm hesitant to say how many leagues we're going to have for the King of the Castle. If this tests well and more people want to get in on it, like Kevin said, it's different. It's a weekly payout this next year versus waiting till the end of the season. It is kind of like a daily fantasy sports that will run all year. Because of the amount of time that I have to put into it with moving things around, I don't know how many of these that we will run next year. And then Damien says, stop that nonsense. You play to win the game, start your studs. Yeah, I think I've heard that quote. You play to win the game somewhere before. So, all right. So let's get into this week's primetime games and see how we pick them. Thursday night, tomorrow night, we got Indianapolis at Tennessee. Tennessee favored by 2 points. The over-under is 48.5, which is actually the highest over-under of our primetime games. Who do you like in this one?
I am going to be taking Tennessee. I know not as hot throughout the past 2 games as they have been, but when you have a freight train in your backfield and Phillip Rivers aging out on the other side of the ball. I know we had mentioned it yesterday on the average bros, only putting up 7 points, not having much to do last week. You're really starting to show his age without the weapons around him. So for me, it's going to be Tennessee. And I hope for your daughter's sake that you agree with me there.
Actually, that is the one reason I am agreeing with you, because if I didn't pick Tennessee, I know she would be super upset with me. So, yes, I'm going to go with you. There won't be a split this week. I'm going with Tennessee as well. A good point here by Chris says I could get a co-commissioner run in each one of the leagues to help me out. It's a very good idea. Thank you for that. Kev, you have been knighted. Chris, you have been knighted. Damien, you might have been knighted. MJ, let me know if you want to be. I don't know what we call it. Dame, since we're saying it's the knights and the dames. Do we dame the ladies? I don't know how that works. So if anybody would like to co-commission any of the King of the Castle leagues with me, let me know. And you know what? Something else we got to think about then is we got to. This is us trying to be creative again. We went out and labeled all of our dynasty leagues after the Army phonetic alphabet. Now we have to come up with a way of labeling the King of the Castle leagues if we have multiple ones of those. So something to think about. Throw your ideas out there if you've got them right now. All right, so Sunday night football usually would be a really good game, or used to be a really good game, or a game that people might care about, as it's Baltimore at New England, and even a game you might still care about being a Patriots fan, but I don't know how many other people would think that this is a great primetime game. Baltimore favored by 7. Over under is 43.5. Are you going to go with your Patriots?
Yes, I am. Lamar Jackson came out this past week and said, and I quote, "It's tough to play and put up points when all of the defenses know what we're going to do." Well, when you only have 5 plays and they're all run pass option plays or RPOs, then of course they're going to know what you do. And the Patriots have handled him pretty well. And I believe voting even more so with them having a quarterback on the roster like Cam Newton, very similar play style as Lamar. I'm not saying the same caliber, but within the same range of ability. I think that bodes well for the Patriots. Not that really helped out playing a lesser team than the Jets this past week, but I still have to bet on the home team. I'm taking the Patriots.
Well, as you said, I had to pick Tennessee because of one of the daughters. I'm going to have to pick Baltimore because of the other daughter, because she is a Ravens fan. Not that I wouldn't have picked them anyways. I will take Baltimore and hope that I have better luck picking a team on the other side of the ball from New England this week, since the Jets didn't do it for me last week. So put me down for Baltimore this week. Damien says, "Can you smell the homer in the room?" Yeah, it's definitely Kevin. That's for sure.
Of course.
You know what? MJ's got a very good idea. I like this. We can name them after chess pieces. I like that. The other one is countries with castles. So when I read that comment, MJ, my thought was to change the border on each one of the King of the Castle pages, and then maybe name that league after the picture of the castle that is in that one. But I do like both of those ideas. Of course, more graphic work for me always makes me happy. So I'm good to go with that on the castles. All right. So the last primetime game is, of course, Monday Night Football. Minnesota at Chicago. Minnesota favored by 2.5. Over under 45 even. Who do you like in that one? This is a tough one.
This one is very tough. I do like Minnesota. Obviously, seeing what Dalvin Cook has done the past couple of weeks, Josh taking him as the his top dog to be the top dog for 3 weeks in a row. Yeah. Tough to see. It's tough for me to believe that he's going to do it for a 3rd week in a row. Tough enough to do it 2 weeks in a row. But with that being said, I think that it is a team effort, and I think that they get the win and get things done.
I'm going to agree with you, Minnesota, partly because of the run game, partly because I don't care what the record is between these two, and I think Chicago's actually up by 2 games over Minnesota. You never know which Chicago team is going to show up. And with David Montgomery possibly being out right now, if we're going to put this on running games, I would pick Minnesota all day over Chicago. And put me down on that one. So the only one we're split on this week, again, is the Baltimore-New England game.
Yes.
Or a game that involves New England. How about that? We'll go with that. All right, so we've been running this across the bottom of the screen a little bit, but just so you know, there are all of the rest of the games for this week. And you'll see the buys come up here at the end of the schedule, and that is going to be between the teams on buys this week are the Jets, Kansas City, Dallas, and Atlanta. I know I'm usually wearing the hat on Thursday night of the team that I thought would win on Thursday nights. But with this being Veterans Day, I wanted to wear something a little bit more American looking, and I've got, wrong way. I've got my Salute to Service Jets hat on tonight with the American flag on it, so that's why it's there. So there you go. Buys this week, Jets, Kansas City, Dallas, and Atlanta. Who does that hurt anybody in your lineups with those 4 teams being off?
Well, let's see. The Jets, no for anybody. Possibly if you had to pick up Flacco as a deep filler. Let's see who else is on by. Kansas City's a big one on by. You figure that's both running backs, Le'Veon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey. So there's a ton of holes to fill on that side of things. Dallas, not so much. I would say maybe Amari Cooper, maybe Zeke, who's kind of fallen from grace, not the running back of last year. And then Atlanta, I think the main 2 being Julio and Matt Ryan, Ridley, and if you're playing a little bit deeper, who has been a very big boom or bust type player. So couple holes to fill there. Not too many crazy spots.
Yeah, I think the biggest one probably is Kansas City. The only other teams that I can think about on that is maybe Dalton Schultz for Dallas's tight end. The only reason I bring that name up is I actually was forced to start him last week in one of them. Yes, of course, you already mentioned it, Calvin Ridley. I think he's hurt anyways. I think so this bye week is probably going to give him another chance to heal. Russell Gage in his absence probably is another one of those that could have been a fill-in that you're going to miss this week as well. So, hey, all of that being said, now that you know who's on bye, those list of possible players, make sure you start your lineups this week, especially those of you that are testing in King of the Castle. Make sure you set them. All right, let's get out of here. So here is our schedule of broadcasts for the rest of this week or the end of this week rolling into next week. At 12:01 Saturday morning, we have the Empty Wagon guys on their broadcast. That's 14 November. They will release that broadcast as a podcast at 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Then they will be back for their next broadcast, which will be the wrap-up of Week 10. That will be at 12:01 a.m. Monday morning, 16 November. They will release that broadcast as a podcast at 5 o'clock Monday morning. The Average Bros will be back on Tuesday, 8 p.m. East Coast time on 17 November. You will be releasing that show as a podcast at 5 o'clock Wednesday morning, yeah?
Yeah.
And then we, Fanatically Real Broadcast, will be back 8:30 p.m. East Coast time, 18 November. And then we will release that show as a podcast 5 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, just like this one will be released at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning if you just want to listen to it while you're hanging around the house or driving to work. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Finger Lakes Mercantile, who was our power ranking sponsor this week. Football Darts, who is our broadcast sponsor. Nature Coast Tailgating, our world championship sponsor. QB54, which is our arm and leg league sponsor. The Deep South Creations, Southern Siren Sugar Scrub, Cranky Veteran Candle Company, and Finger Lakes Mercantile, who are also a bowl sponsor. All 4 of them bowl sponsors. And then, of course, thank you to Mondo and the guys from the Recast, who are the official music of FSA. And before we get out of here for the night, we were looking to see if Coach Bill would be on with us. The FSA Lions grabbed another win this week. I wanted to make sure, since we couldn't get the video to play because of the format of the video, wanted to make sure that we showed this awesome picture of our FSA Lions. there is the FSA logo on their jerseys. I think the kiddos are now 3-1 for the year. So congratulations to the FSA Lions. And we will see if we can get Coach Bill back on here with us next week to get an update. They must have a long practice tonight because tonight is practice night before they go into their game on Saturday. So good luck to the kids this weekend. And thank you for watching the Fanatically Real broadcast, sponsored by Football Darts and Fantasy Sports Alliance. If you liked the show, please go out, like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on all of our social media. You'll see it coming across the bottom right there. Kevin, enjoy the rest of your week. You got any big plans?
This week, no. Quiet week. I will be at home watching all of my lineups, hoping Damien. I can't wish him no luck this week. I wish him partial luck, as I need him to lose in Delta to myself, and then I do need him to win in redraft. So, Damien, I wish you some luck. Everyone else, I wish you all the luck, and as you make the playoff push here.
Good luck to everybody. I'm not going to pick favorites. I'm just going to say good luck to everybody. Especially, okay, I'll pick a favorite. Especially good luck to me. Hope I can knock off Kalunga Clan this week. I need that help and a little bit of help around the South Atlantic region to make sure that I get myself in. But Kev, we will see you back here next week, brother. Have a good night.